All right, good afternoon. Again, welcome to Investor Media. We are at the Royal Thames Yacht Club in London, Knightsbridge. We have been speaking about yachting previously, and now we have another aspect of yachting. Now, this time it's a company we make sails and yachting design. Jim, welcome to the show. Can you tell us a bit what you do and, speak to us about your industry?
Sure. Well, thank you very much for having me. So I have a firm called Ratsey Lapthorn Sailmakers. We're based in Calloc'h on the Isle of Wight. We're the oldest sailmakers in the world. So we were founded in 1790. We're sitting here in the Royal Thames Yacht Club, which was founded in 1775. So they've got 15 years on us. We specialise in making traditional sails, and we've been making sails in our premises in Cowes now for 230 years essentially in a very similar way. It's a lot of handwork, there's a lot of traditional skills that are there, and it's handed down by craftsmen, by generation to apprenticeships and that kind of thing. And we find ourselves now in a sort of a unique position where we make sails very much for classic boats, whose owners and those that enjoy using those boats really appreciate the sort of art and the craft of making sails that not only perform well but aesthetically look beautiful and in keeping with their yachts.
That is great. I know classic regattas are beautiful, and obviously having beautiful sails is the asset when the boats are on the water. But how do you keep the tradition going? Do you use the same technology, or you use new technologies?
Yes, a very good question, because essentially the actual craft of making a sail has become industrialised, shall we say, and so. You can make a sail that will essentially perform the same way, but it can be done with modern production techniques which are not particularly sustainable, or they're not particularly good for the environment. But I suppose what we do is we try and blend the modern and the old. So it's about creating a sail that's going to perform, win races if you want to win races, or last a long time if that's what the brief is, but have the aesthetic and the look. So we've spent a lot of time and money recently investing in design technology and different ways of manufacturing to make it a more modern process. But we still very much have the craft and the craftsmanship alive. So Gary, who's our master sailmaker, our craftsman, he joined the firm when he was 16. He left school, became an apprentice, and he's now been there for 40 plus years and is at the top of his game.
That is really impressive. Really old tradition businesses, we managed to survive the new technology, the industrial revolution, and you're still there. And how you see the future of obviously you mentioned sustainability, environmental issues with yachting. Obviously you're there as well, and could you explain to us how you make traditional sails by using new technology?
There's two angles to our business now. One is the sail making, and that it will always be at the very centre, the very sharp end of what we do. It's not an easy industry. It's an industry that is there's a lot of bigger players than us. There's a lot of bigger sailmakers, a lot of more modern sailmakers. We're trying to really get focused back to that art, that craft. So it's somebody who, it's a bit like I suppose you could compare it to the automobile industry, the classic car industry, where you might have a lovely E-type Jag or something like that, and you would like to make sure that every part of that, even an engine component, is authentic and real. So we use that, and then in terms of our sustainability angle, it's one of the sort of myths in a way of sailing is that it's this wonderful green pursuit where you're being pushed along by the wind, and therefore it must have no impact on the environment. But of course, the production of yachts is inherently there's a lot of energy consumed there, and also in sail making, and sails are essentially made of a derivative of plastic. So it's not actually and they're consumable, so they have a shelf life. And they're designed to be super tough, super robust. They're designed to last the elements. So it's not the kind of product that breaks down naturally in landfill. So one thing we're looking at, a couple of things we're looking at. One is we're looking at making sails out of upcycled plastic, so effectively taking plastic bottles and secondary use plastic in industry and putting that through the process of sail making, so we can make sails that way. And the second thing is making sure that when the sails have finished their life, they're given they're brought back into the recycling process, so they're not just left to landfill. We've teamed up with a factory now that can break a sail down back into a form that can be put through a process again, and then essentially spun back into yarn, from which we can make other products like bags, clothing.
That's very good. Obviously, bags, clothing, is quite important, especially for sailing people who are passionate about sailing and going around. And as you mentioned, cows, you need a good jacket in cows most of the year.
Yeah.
Now, is that the branding, the lifestyle, and the yachting your view basically for the future of your company?
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely. And the product side of the business is we see as great potential, because essentially we're a heritage brand. There's not many. I think the quote I rather like was, "Anybody can start a brand. It's just the first 100 years that are tough." And so we see ourselves as a brand that can go into other markets, and particularly it's in those kind of crafted goods. So leveraging that sense of craftsmanship into products that have that same sort of DNA or handwriting of the craft of sail making. And I think they can be they're quite high-end products. They're made in the UK. I think this whole COVID business, in fact, has almost accelerated a thought process at the moment, which is to steer away from disposable fashion and buy things, make things well, make them for life. That's probably the most sustainable thing anybody can do, is make something and give it a lifetime guarantee. So we see that as very much part of our future, and that's what we're pursuing.
That's great. You know what? We'd be delighted to publicize what you do, your lifestyle products. How because it's obviously transition from sail makers to clothing. It's a completely different industry, but I'm fairly sure there will be a great future for you. That's for sure.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Well, Jim, welcome. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it, and look forward to meet you again on the next program, maybe.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.